trail. We had to turn around because of this digging out that pass.
Welcome back, adventurers. You're watching the Continental Divide, the Hard Tracks Part 2, Episode 10, Season Finale. This will be the last installment of this season for Part 2 Hard Tracks. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. Please like and subscribe and share. It helps the channel, helps me, keeps me motivated to make more content, and I can't wait to share more adventures with you guys. Enjoy the ride.
This is like Fleecer Ridge style. I had to turn the bike around. Got to go all the way back from whence we came. I made it up that.
Once we got our bikes turned around, Chris's wasn't too bad. It took 3 or 4 guys to turn mine around, running it up the side of that pass there. Very sketchy, pretty steep there, even though the footage won't show it, but figured the clutch was warm at least, so I'd leave it cut off and just kind of coast down. Did the same kind of routine with Fleecer Ridge as what I mentioned there at the beginning, but yeah, just kept it off until it was time to turn it back on. Once we had figured out that we were not going to be able to make it over the pass, I can tell you I was not excited about backtracking through everything we had just done. I thought it was going to be just as hard going back, but it actually wasn't that bad. Since most of it was a climb on the way up there, obviously going downhill is a little bit easier, but there was some moderate difficulty going back because we did come down some ledges, very tight ledges on that single track that made me nervous.
Well, plenty an hour. Sure, Chris is happy.
Another thing that kind of pushed me into getting rid of the Touareg is I've always loved the NAR. The technical sections is where I've enjoyed the most. And being on this big bike, it's still a lot of fun, but the weight made all the decisions for me. It was time to move to something light. I hop on YouTube pretty regularly, mostly on the weekends on a Saturday morning, hot coffee and just kind of hang out and absorb, other people's experiences. And my goal with the channel has always been to provide an extensive view of the trail while not sacrificing all of the entertainment value. Now, I am a rookie when it comes to editing all this stuff. I'm trying to get better. I bought a new camera. I've bought several cameras. And I'm trying to make it more entertaining. But I want you to be prepared for what you're going to see on the Continental Divide or on these other trails that I have plans to ride. I don't want to cut them down so much that there's things that surprise you. And there has certainly been things that surprised us. Not only with the footage, but with the routes itself, the GPX routes. And my goal was to show you as much of the trail as possible while trying to keep your attention. And I hope I've done a good job of that. I know I don't have a massive following, but I do appreciate every one of you that's stuck with it. And I hope that you're getting the full experience as intended.
out of water, I think.
Here is yet another friendly reminder to carry plenty of water on the trail. I ran a Camelback, which is about a half gallon, I think, and a big Gatorade, and it was still not enough. So keep that in mind, especially if you're going to be riding all day out in the heat.
Chippy Mucci.
When you're riding out west, there's a theory that I have come up with in my skull, and it's the harder you ride, the better the view. The climb up that mountain was certainly hell, but getting on top of that mountain was so worth it. To see what we saw, it was the highlight of the trip, and we had to work for it.
Well, we're going back through everything we just came through, so we got a rough section ahead. I wanted to say the roughest part was coming this way, but I think that's the complete truth, to be honest.
If I've learned anything in my years of adventure riding, it's that confidence is key. Losing confidence on the trail in yourself usually leads to mistakes because you're not riding the way you should be. And I look back on some of this footage and I'm thinking, man, I should have went this way, or I should have chose this line, and I hesitated or stopped, and that's what gets you in trouble. You'll realize that as you ride and you get more experienced, but confidence is paramount.
Saved it. Well, that's a problem.
So it was a problem. This is what I was talking about when I said you got to be careful riding along and that front tire hits a rock and redirects off the trail. Luckily, I was not in a situation where I was redirected off the side of the mountain, but it was a hairy spot just because of the incline there and the softness of that grass and soil there. Not only that, I was blocked by a big log, so that meant I was probably going to have to either pick up the front back on the trail or back it out. I was stuck there for a good little bit before I laid the bike down, regathered my thoughts, and was able to back the bike off. I think I rocked it back a little bit and then started it up and rode off.
I had a redirect on my front tire. Took me off over there, and I ain't climbing that, so I'll pull off of it a little bit. Stopped me was afraid I wasn't gonna fit with the skid plate. Gosh dang it. Lugging that clutch. Trying to make it.
I'm pretty glad I slowed down there because you could hear my skid plate hit that rock and it brought me to a halt. That's kind of what I was afraid of through some of these sections was, just the odd placement of the rocks on the trail. Hit that skid plate, throw you off the bike, put you down. It's not good to be doing like 10 to 15 miles an hour and then come to a complete stop. So I got lucky several times. I was able to navigate through some of this stuff with no issue, but there were certainly times where it kicked my butt.
I get redirected down one of them hills. I won't ever get out of there. feel better standing up. It's risky. Not much room for mistake. Slow down, boy. Enduro. When they said we had to turn around, I was about to tell Chris to start a foundation in my name. It's not easy. None of it has been. As bad as this has been, I still think there's a little bit of relief in that you have these little bitty flat spots. Letting the suspension work, man. Too tired. Just tired. We're frustrated, but we're bros. Hey, brothers. Well, that's if we make it out of here alive, of course. Let's not get too nostalgic. Alright, so I believe this is where I got stuck last time. Yep. Good as gold.
This was another example of the camera not doing the trail justice. Those rocks were huge. The Perla Tuareg is amongst the best in clearance in the mid-size market, and it just wasn't clearing those rocks. Had to slow down, had to play it smart, had to inch over the rocks. I'm not Paul Torres. You might be. So if you happen through this area and you're on a mid-size fully loaded and you pop a wheelie over those rocks, make sure to message me and let me know so I can watch. Because that was not me. I was whooped.
descent. Not bad. Ow! That's a little bit bigger drop off than I thought it was going to be.
A trail like this is what I consider a perspective trail. Challenging yourself is important on your bike so that you know your limits, you know where you stand with the bike that you've chosen. And this trail put into perspective where I was at with this bike and what I was capable of doing with it. It really put me in my place.
Those rocks tell you where to
I
go.
would have loved to have seen how I could have handled this trail empty without luggage. I'm sure it probably wouldn't have made a ton of difference, but the bike just feels like such a big dirt bike without luggage. Traction controls. Woo! It's a hell of a trip. All right, man. My brother Chris has always been, a constant in my life. There to pick me up when I fall. There for me in some of the toughest times of my life, and I can't thank him enough. Not only for that, but for taking me outside my comfort zone. He got me into adventure riding, which has been a huge source of mental health for me, as it is for many men and women around the United States. And I'm super blessed to have him as a brother, and we have experienced some of the coolest things together, and we have so many more adventures to do together. And that's another reason why I really want you guys to stick around. I've got a lot of cool camera equipment inbound, and I'm really going to make this a cool thing, not only just for us and our little riding group, but I want to make it cool for you guys as well. And I'm hoping that I can do that and grow this channel into something special. Hope I did this bike justice on this trip. Need our last little leg, what we call it, quits, head back to Tennessee. Probably the most challenging thing I've done. That was no slouch, dude. That's expert course right there. And I'm no expert. Man, we came a long way up here, dude. Gosh. I still remember the relief of knowing that I was almost to the bottom of this trail. As much as I loved the Nar, I was whooped. Gosh, that was a tough trail. And not only did we go up it, we had to come back through it. And it fought me every step of the way on that bike. It was similar to getting off of a boat after you've been lost at sea and kissing the ground.
That was insanity. The Colorado Trail. Oh.
If you couldn't tell, I was pretty relieved to be off of that trail and back on solid ground, I guess. Yeah, so we were back on the trail. It was flat, calm, and a much needed break after riding that back and forth. Experience of a lifetime. So glad that we rode that trail. But I was glad to be back on flat ground where I could rest, get some air blowing through me, and just recharge a little bit.
We are headed to Breckenridge, Colorado. The town where Dumb and Dumber was filmed.
You would think that after 6 days on the trail, some of the views would begin to become normal to you, but they just don't. Being out west in the wide open countryside, there is nothing like it, and it never ceases to amaze me. As we were riding along the Continental Divide, I spotted a fellow Tuareg rider. And not only was he a fellow Tuareg rider, he was also my buddy on the forum. He had actually offered me a tire to replace my rear Motors, but I was too far away. I was still like an hour and a half, almost 2 hours south when that happened. So, but it was pretty cool to see him out on the trail, and it's a small world. I just wanted to let him know that I'm super appreciative that he offered me that rear tire. It's cool to know there are people out there, that care, that are on the trail, that understand. And my team, I appreciate you, brother. Gliding along the Continental Divide out here in the wide open, after conquering mountain after mountain, gave me such a feeling of triumph that we were almost done, that we had conquered so much and came so far, and I could feel it drawing to an end. I didn't want it to be over, but it was such an accomplishment and seemed so surreal at the time, just crawling over hill after hill to the finish line. As we inched closer to Breckenridge, Colorado, I can remember the vastly different landscapes that the Continental Divide had to offer. It's almost as if we were living in a different country out there. It really feels like that. If you've not been out west, or if you have not explored the West and you live out that way, I highly suggest that stretch of terrain from near Canada all the way down to New Mexico. It is night and day difference at times between the terrain, the weather. It's amazing. It's an awesome experience, and I highly recommend it. Whether you do it by motorcycle or vehicle, you have to get out there and experience it, because the footage will never do it justice. Episode 10 comes to a close. We turn the final page in our Continental Divide chapter. A trip spanning nearly 3,000 miles off-road, and so many memories that will never be forgotten. My final message to you is this: don't limit your challenges. Challenge your limits. Thomas Edison said, "Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time." Make it count, adventurers. And it's not goodbye, it's I'll see you next time. Enjoy the ride.